All right, good evening, everybody. It is Jason again, and I'm actually bringing back one of my favorite guests of all time. One story I've always talked about Jason Green is I don't think he probably didn't remember me because it was in the dark. It was one of those old ass Yeti nightmare races, and I was climbing up that big hill at the end, and you were cheering everybody on, and freaking NWA was playing in the background, and Jarian was right beside you, and y'all were like dancing, and you like high five me, and I was new to trail running. I was like hauling ass going up that hill, and I was about to die, but like that was the first time I really ever saw you because you were such a behind the scenes guy at that race. You were never really out in the front, but I saw you there, and I was
Yeah,
like, and I remember talking to a friend afterwards. I'm like, he's one of the race directors, and they're like, you got to run one of his races but like one of his with nobody else attached to it to get the full Yeti experience. And so I was like, and that's when I started signing up. So I got the main Yeti, Jason Green. So thanks for being here, Jason.
hey, hey, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for sharing that story. I I treat races like skateboard contests. I'm just like really excited, like you know what I mean. Like if you come in first, last, DNF, like I'm just happy you fucking got to come out. So like,
Right. And what's funny is I think the song that was playing was NWA's Fuck the Police. It was either that or Straight Outta Compton. I can't remember. It was one or two. All I know is I was trying to not like I was like hauling ass up that hill up to that pavilion or little
yes, yeah.
you know
Oh,
what I'm talking
geez, yeah,
about. And that's
yeah.
a hell of a little uphill there at the end. But anyway, it's great to have you on. But me and
Thank
Jason,
you.
yeah, we've been trying to connect for a minute because Jason's got some stuff going on, and it's pretty exciting because he's added three new races to the stable of the Yeti Trail Race series, and one of them is the Canebrake 200 miler, the Troublesome Hollow 50K. I'm super excited about that, and then
Yeah.
the Dark Anchor Ultra Festival, which is just a big ass party in a cool ass park.
Oh
Um,
God, the it's funny. Seven Trails was going to move all over, and it's at Orcas Island, in 2023. But that Wormslow Park really spoke to me, and Patrick Regan's down there, and like people are just really cool in Savannah, and we're very welcoming. And the park was like, please come back. We love, they loved us being in the park, and I was like, we got to come back, like so. And the location is really awesome in my mind, right? Like beautiful trees, good first time event, good like 10th time. Like it's just being around people and having fun in my mind. Like that's what I loved about Wormslow. So, you know, got to saw a lot of people go further than they ever thought they could in this lifetime. So that's rad as hell, right?
all it is, and the great thing about Jason is he has seen the good, the bad, and the ugly with me. And at that race, he got to see the ugly with me because first off, I'll let Jason talk about it a little bit. I want to compliment him because the trail really to be a loop course really wasn't monotonous in a way that you were you felt it. And I tell you, the cherry on top, and I'm sure you probably heard this, was the fact of having a facility that had a real bathroom that you could
Yeah.
go in and use. That the place at the park kept open for us, which was amazing that the park kept this wonderful facility open for people to go in and use a real toilet in the middle of an ultra trail race. That's special, right?
I agree. And the park ranger there, Gretchen, she is super rad. Like, I mean, my favorite thing was is they were like, you guys keep the bathroom cleaner than than the guests. So, they were so shocked that so many people could use the restroom and not like they were like on a Saturday, this bathroom's destroyed by people, visitors, right? So they were
Right.
very happy.
Right. What's funny is I think I used it like, I don't know, like it was like 12 hours into the race, and I walked in and I was like, damn, this thing is really clean. I was like, did it just open? And apparently it had been open all day, and that was just how clean it was. I was like, this is really nice, but the trail is great. I guess the big thing with Dark Anchor, of course, when I ran it with Seven Trails, how did you come across that park? I mean, because it's a
So
pretty, like you said, it's cool.
this is a very funny story. So one of the park managers at Sweetwater, when I lived on Sweetwater Creek State Park, was Brad Ballard. And Brad Ballard used to catch me up there in the park running at night, and the park's closed at night. So one time I had some people out to my house, and he was like, Jason, if you want to run in the park at night with your friends, like just make it a damn race, right? So that's and and I said, hey, yeah, no problem. And I said, if you ever want to join us, please do. All of a sudden, Brad started showing up at my house. Like we ran like every Tuesday and Thursday, and he started showing up. And one day he looked at me and he said, do you think I can run 100 miles? And I was like, if I can run 100 miles, you can run 100 miles, right? And
Right.
this guy went from no running, 10 months later, ran and finished Pinhoti 100, the
Wow.
park. And so he took over the whole coastal park, all the parks in the coastal. He's like the, I don't know, GM over all the parks. And he called me up. He's like, man, I really miss seeing the Yetis. Why don't you come and do a race at one of our parks? And we were discussing parks and locations. And I happened to be in Savannah, because of Savannah Distributing, alcohol company. And I saw Wormslow, and I was like, holy cow, this place is beautiful. And I was like, Brad, it's a historic site. You think we can get a pass for it? And he's like, yeah. He was like, man, dude, running doesn't, so that's how it came to be, was Brad. And he used to have this cool blog called like the Running Ranger. And I love to keep up with this stuff, but he and I have remained friends over the years. And like I said, he would just join us 9-10 years ago on runs, and he just became an ultra runner. So I think he's too busy to run ultras now, overseeing all those parks. But that truly is how I came to Wormslow.
And for those that didn't catch it, when Jason was talking about how cool the area is, if you've never been to Savannah, Georgia, it is one of the best places. And I'm not just saying this because he's sitting here. My wife loves Savannah so much. Our daughter is named Savannah. And so let me tell you, that city is just so special. And where we picked the packet pickup at, dude, that was the coolest place ever.
Oh yeah, yes. The food trucks and outdoor, so awesome, wasn't it?
Oh, it was
Um,
amazing.
and you know what I like about it is people and their families and their friends came with them because they got to explore Savannah, because Savannah is a cool ass town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was awesome to see people just go on vacation and have a race. I was like, man, that's perfect to me. And that's kind of where, as Seven Trails moves, that the idea, that's why it's on the island, so you can bring your family next year, like, and just, because as you know, you probably the same. I have traveled to so many races alone, and the girls and everybody be back at home. And I always enjoyed going to places where I could bring them along, and they wouldn't just be sitting on a gravel road at mile 10. There was a town for them to have fun in. So that's really a good point about Savannah you brought up. Like, that's really the basis. So you can bring your whole family, your cousin, and your ex-wife too. You know what I mean? Whatever you want.
Right.
So,
And you're right, because like what we did was, we finished, just to set it up, I kind of fell apart, and I think I dropped somewhere in the mid 50s. And Jason and Patrick Reagan sitting there giving me the speech, and like I was pretty bitter, and I was done at that point. Like there was no talking me into
no. I tried
No,
to talk to you. You were not hearing any
no,
part of it. But
no.
but that is the greatest part of ultra running is it takes you to that point and beyond it, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what I love about it. Is not much in life will take you so far out of the comfort zone you're ready to fight people for trying to keep you in the race. You know?
Oh yeah, but it was amazing because like you said, we turned it into like a vacation afterwards. Like, the next day, like we hit the town, we went to we went to the island there and went to the ocean and saw all that stuff and then went back into the savannah and went to the park and had some great food and had some great drinks. And it's just you know what's great about this race is I was talking to a friend about it, and I'm like, you have the damn Yeti and the Yeti 100 that gives you that small town vibe of like the community and the trail, and then you have like just kind of this destination style race where you just don't go there to run, you go there to make it like a full on like trip, and that's what you can do with this one.
And the great thing is put it on the race is on Friday, so you're done, and then you get to spend the next night, that whole day and night with whoever you bring. So it's fun for everyone in my mind. So and then you get Sunday to travel. I love, I love races that start on Friday, right? Because I hated to go to work on Monday with like swollen ass feet. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
I was like, one time I ran this Friday race, and I was like, oh man, I get this chill Sunday, like to relax. And that's why I do a lot of Friday stuff. And it's easier to take a Friday off from work than a Monday.
Yeah.
Because so much shit is rolling around on the weekends that needs to be caught up on at work on Monday.
Oh
So
yeah. Mhm.
and and a boss is more forgiving of a Monday. I mean, a Friday than a Monday, right? So,
Oh yeah.
so,
Well,
but I truly fell in love with Savannah, and like I said, the park manager Gretchen, like, you go to places and like Sweetwater, like they're so welcoming for years and years and years, and they love to have runners. They consider it, you know, awesome time to have runners come and visit the park, right? So, I mean, back in the day, Sweetwater had one parking lot and it was just runners that would fill it up, right? So that's not the case anymore. But
well, and the cool thing about the one thing that we haven't touched on with Dark Anchor is the the area, I like to call it the home base area, is unbelievably well positioned. I mean, like you literally could not have a better, and I've ran several races, even, even at, the damn Yeti, when you were at the cottages there, I mean, comparatively, this setup, you're like right beside the freaking finish where you have to turn around and go back. The setup is perfect. The field is perfect. You don't have to worry about running out of space, right? Because
no,
that's
no.
always a concern. Am I wrong?
Oh, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. So, I think it worked out as well as a race could do, right? Like the problem with Seven Trails, and it moves every year, like from a race director's point of view, like every year I'm walking into the unknown, right? Like there's some bases I know to cover, but then there's some shit like water. What if the water, you know what I mean? Like most events we've done for 10 years, I know where secondary and third water, right? And so a first time event, you're like, kind of just going in the dark. And but I felt like Wormslow, I feel like from a race director's point of view, you showed up and thought it was, sixth, seventh year of that race. You know what I mean? Like it was just chill. People are having fun. Craig and family had the food truck and snow cones. I mean, they did such a great job. So,
Oh, it was amazing. And the thing is one thing that gets left out of this that we don't talk about enough is the volunteers
uh,
were flipping
yeah,
unreal, man. The lady that was taking the photos, I can never remember her name. Man, she took some of the best photos, and she was
Uh,
all over the damn place.
yeah, that's Samantha, and she's like she's the assistant RD. She's been with me for like 10 years, but her photography skills are really unmatched. And you know what I think is like she's has a long history of ultra running and ran ultras and 100 milers. And when you see an ultra runner take a photo, and like it just comes back at you, right? Like you get it. We all get it. And I think when I look at her photos, that's what I really think about is like it it reminds me of ultra running. It reminds me of what we do, and that's why I love it. This is what I love about Howie Stern, by the way. Jesus. I mean, that dude, it captures some great photos.
Oh man,
So
he is amazing. And let me tell you, I had Pete on I don't know, a month or two back, and you know how I came across Pete Schreiner was, so I have a buddy who was running Scar,
yeah,
and he needed somebody to pace him the second part of Scar.
yeah.
And like Pete just said, I'm in, dude. And so Pete drove up and paced my buddy John the second part of Scar and helped him get his Scar finish.
I,
And I mean, dude, he is that dude, and his photos are amazing because he was at Hellbender. He was the photographer. I mean, he took some pictures at Hellbender, and I was like, dude, I mean, he captures some
I,
really deep shit.
he is one of the best photographers in the Southeast. Like he shot Dan Yeti, and he's coming to do the 100, right? And when I also like his perspective is unreal for me, right? So think about at Dan Yeti. I have literally seen all of that course since I was 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Decades, right?
Right.
So it's very and I've seen so many photos over the years from all along the trail, from people we've hired to people's crew, and I always like to look at it. And I tell you what, when I saw Pete's this year, I said, this is a perspective maybe I've not ever seen before, and I hope he likes it. That he was like, "Hey, where do you want me to shoot?" I said, "Dude, you're the photographer, not so because I like to let people do what they want to do, right? Like they're photographers and they do it because they're passionate, and um, uh, I like to take photos, but just on an iPhone. So
Well, the great thing about Pete is when you think about photography, ultra trail photography. Pete is one of when you think of an ultra trail runner, you can't get much purer than Pete Schreiner. The dude has, I mean, he only has like one or two races on his ultra sign up, but yet he can
yeah,
go out and pace somebody at freaking Scar,
uh,
and then go out and run H9 like it's nobody's
yeah.
business,
Well,
right?
I was gonna say he earned my respect by running H9. So in the racing world, I was like, you fucking earned it. Like like
So that's just cool. So we and for those that Dark Anchor, it's a loop course. I don't think we actually hit on the course. It's a
you know,
loop course.
yeah.
It's what, 5-ish miles, right?
Yep, like 4.5, yeah.
Four
And
point.
I think we don't talk a lot about, you know, it's an event and it's for people trying to reach new distances. So every year we've had that event, people come up to me and say, I never thought I would be able to run a 25K. Never thought I'd be able to run a 50K. And, um, that's very important to me, right? Like, because, that's what we want. It's very easy for all of us to just jump right to 100 miles in our brain. But the greatest thing about it is people are coming out hitting their first 25K, first 50K, first 100K, and to me, like, that is a real honor that people, trust the Yetis enough to come out and put it on the line. Whatever that mileage may be. you know? Uh,
Oh, absolutely. And I remember talking to people that day on the course because I like to talk to people,
yeah,
and so I remember talking to a lady that her goal was 20 miles, because she had never got to go 20 miles ever before. Like her longest distance was like 12 or 13 miles, right? It's like a half
yeah,
marathon, and but she really wanted to go 20 miles, and that was her distance, right? That was like her distance, and I think a lot of times we get caught up in, oh, you got to
yeah,
run a 50K, you got to run 50 miles. Dude, there are people that can go out I'm going to be pacing a half marathon, my first ever race. I've been pacing for the last few years. The best, I enjoy that race more than any race I run. You know why? Because I pace and I get to watch people achieve their goals. And you know
yeah,
what?
I,
I pace the
I,
2:15 group, right? It's not the
yeah,
fastest group.
yeah,
These are
yeah.
soccer
And,
moms.
dude, this is why I've always been. This is why the Yetis were really founded to stop like elitism in this all in running. Um, Dude, there is no. I used to be surrounded, and back 10, 11 years ago in ultra running, people would come up to me and they go, "Oh, I just ran a 50K." Like belittle the distance. You know what I mean? And I was like, fuck that. That's kind of the Yetis. Like uh everything is monumental, right? Like take it from me. I was in an accident, complete rupture of Achilles. I would give anything for 1 fucking mile, right? Like
Mhm.
anything.
Right.
Until you have running completely taken from you, and then you realize there's no just, right? Like I was when I was able to run a 5K, I was so happy. You would not. I fucking cried tears of joy, you
Right.
know. And I will never, taking running and something we love for granted. There is no fucking just, and we never know what people are going through or how they got there, right?
No,
And
no, no, no.
yeah, and
You mean you nailed it. I mean, you absolutely
I
nailed it.
always said at I used to put on skateboard contests, and it wasn't the person doing 360 kick flips to 50 fucking grind. Sometimes the person who got the best applause just learned to drop in that day, right? And that's
Mhm.
why I treat running just like skateboarding, just like if your heart is in it, we will celebrate the hell out of it with you, right? Like so
Oh,
that's kind of the point of that whole stuff.
oh, absolutely. And I remember it was 2 years ago. I finished pacing, and this lady walked up to me, and she said, "I just want you to know." She said, she said, I've had a couple of kids and I've not been able to really run anything since I've had those kids. And she said, this is the furthest I've ever ran and the most I've ever been able to do since I've had those kids. And she said, you were a big part of helping me cross it. And I looked at her, I said, I didn't do anything. I said, I held the sign. I said,
Yeah,
you were the one running beside me. I said, I didn't do
yeah.
anything but just run. I said, you were the one that crossed the finish line. But it was just back to the point of like, you look at her, you didn't know, she had kids, and you know what it's like having kids. It's a hard task. And being a mother is the hardest job in the world. Not to take anything away from a dad, right? But being a
Yeah.
mom,
Well, you can't be taking anything away from Appalachian grandmas either, because they'll
no,
whoop your ass. Because all of us is raised by our grandmas.
right? Well, and and I think that's a good segue into the next race, which is the Troublesome Hollow 50K. And
Yes.
dude, I am so excited about this race. I have got
Yeah.
to get into this damn race.
Oh yeah, please. And I will tell you, there is a family in Bristol, the Cheers family, and they own the only mountain like outdoor store, and it's called Mountain Sports Limited, and they still own it. It's family owned. And these people have known me since I used to go up and buy, you know, my buckles from my Boy Scout loop at their place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then uh, I ran cross country, knew them, buying shoes there. started whitewater boating. So I kind of grew up with this outdoor fan. It's the only place to, you couldn't go on the fucking internet back then. It's like little, cool, small shop. And the reason I love the Cheers family is because they were like passionate, right? Like deep into like canoeing, hunting, whitewater boating, running, just skiing, like whatever you had, they were the true outdoors. And they gave me a call, and they and a group of people had saved this have built this trail and saved it, and it's out towards below my grandmother's house and where we grew up fishing, and on a river. And they raised all this money, only private trail I've ever known in my life, that's open to public. So they no city funds. They all spent their own money, rebuilt trestles, swinging bridges. And he said, "Hey, Jay, come out, run it, see what you think about it." And I came and ran it a few times. It's like, I like this, I like it. And then, I got to the end, and I kept running one day, and I was like, holy shit, this is where I used to get drunk when I was 16 and raise hell, like it was a fire tower, and I used to, so when I was in town, I'd just go up and do some more runs up to the fire tower. It's very beautiful, usually some coyotes up in the ridge line, and always do fireball shots. And they called me up, and they're like, and the best part of all of this is the very first medal I received in running was like in second grade. And Renee Rogers, who manages the Birthplace of Country Music Museum in Bristol, that's why she's hosting the Yetis for Back and Pickup. And they all came together, and they said, Jason, we would like to bring people to your hometown and show the birthplace of country music. And they're like, I was like, okay, I'm fucking in. You know what I mean? Like, and it just kind of, and I said, well, and so it's a great beginner race, easy Bristol, a lot of runnable stuff. The only hill is up to the fire tower, and the only aid station at the top of the fire tower will only serve Fireball up there. So so I really look forward to it, and I really, my family is very excited about it. My family has been in that area for over 100 years, right? So to them, the river is very important. The trail will be on. They use a lot. They probably were like me, raised a bunch of hell on it, drank on it, and like drove cars on it, and we just generally raised hell out there, right? So it was good, and it was good, and I was like, absolutely, I think we should bring people to Bristol, Virginia, and all, if people don't know, all my family still live there. They're born bricks in their belly, right? They can't move. So you'll get to see my uncles, my aunts, I don't know if people know this. My mom is like 1 of 9. You know what I mean? My grandfather is fucking Baptist. You know what I mean? Like, like, so, it just holds a special place. And as a kid, we would walk down the trail. There's a cool stream that comes in there that we do fish for some brook trout when I was like 7, 8, like a lot of smallmouth fishing. And like I said, I just want to showcase where I grew up. And that's the purpose of Troublesome Hollow. And I was like, and a way to give back to those that helped me, like the Cheers family and people in Bristol. Like I always say, without the kindness of strangers in my hometown of Bristol and Appalachia, I would not have had the opportunities I had. And that's why people always see me really try to get back to feeding Southwest Virginia. We provide a scholarship to a student in Southwest Virginia that's graduating to go into college. I truly would have got nowhere in life without the kindness of strangers in Appalachia. So that's kind of, and I'm glad we get to come back and run a damn race and raise a little hell.
So the name, where's the name from? Troublesome Hollow.
So the Troublesome Hollow is kind of like an old, like there's an old creek on the backside of this hanging rock barn, and it's called Troublesome Creek, and there's so many bands probably called Troublesome, and it's a very common name in Appalachia, like Troublesome Hollow, and I'm assuming it related to probably like some moonshine, whatever was going up in the hollow, like there's still some hollows I won't drive up in. So you know what I mean? Like that's just how it is.
So true story. Here in I'm sure you'll relate to this. Here in Tennessee, we don't call them hollows. We call them hollers.
Yeah.
And yes. I used to live in this really small town called Smithville, Tennessee. And I remember going down this road, and I had a friend in the car with me who was local to the area. And we passed by this road, and he said, "Do you see that road right there?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "There's a holler at the bottom of that road." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Don't ever drive down that road if you don't want to get shot." He said, "Because you will get shot." He said, "Because they just shoot and they don't give a damn who you are." He said, "Because you're on their property." And he said, I shit you not. He said, "The people that live down there don't even have a television." And I was like, I mean, but I mean, this is the same town where, there was this older man walking, and he always had his hand in his pocket. And a friend of mine one day, I asked him, I said, "Why is his hand in his pocket?" And he said, because he's holding on to his pistol. And I said, "Why is he holding on to his pistol?" He said, "Because he keeps $5,000 cash in his other pocket at all times." And it's like this old ass man, but that's just the way, though. You know what I mean? I mean, that old style country, like deep.
Yeah.
And if you're not from here, you don't get it, right? You don't get it.
Yeah. You don't know about flea markets. You don't know about the sheriff fucking hating on people, and trying to arrest everybody. Like I don't that. I tell you, I still love a flea market like nobody's business.
Who doesn't?
Yeah, and a yard sale, because I would love to look into people's lives, right? We are some nosy son bitches from Appalachia.
Well, hey, you're going to know what I'm talking about. You can't go into a flea market without seeing about 10 Elvis velvet rugs.
I love them.
That hangs on the wall. You know what I'm talking about, right?
I love them. I love them. I just love a damn flea market. There's some guy, you don't know how he's collected 500 knives to sell, but he has 500 buck knives, right? Like, and people, like, you can still buy rifles and shit. Like, nobody ever acts up at a flea market, and some of them usually have the best food, like the best kettle corn and all that, right? So.
Oh gosh, yeah.
I just wanted people to come back to my hometown, and we'll, have packet pickup at the museum, and then go over to the brewery, and just a good history. It's where country music was first recorded. So, and I have a lot of good memories growing up skateboarding and whitewater boating and running in the mountains there. So it's just a good way to get back and have visitors come to a town, and Appalachia's, manufacturing doesn't happen anymore, really. It's all fled the country. So we are left with these beautiful ass mountains and these awesome people, and we, have tourism, right? So whatever I can do to help it along and help people come in, and I know people just think they're running a race, but it really provides, tourism dollars are a big thing where I'm from, in the Southwest Virginia area. So it's very important. It's very important to me, and it's truly a way for me to give back. The people own these hotels and breweries, like I said, the Renee managing, like, we all grew up together, right? So it's a good way, and these people all helped me in my life. So I want to just celebrate those people.
That's awesome. So is this trail, like, is it mainly single track? I mean, what are we?
Single, double. runs along the river. So it'll be like I'm gonna post the course, start in the middle, go out, back, and then up to the fire tower, across the swinging bridge, and then back. So very fast.
Very
Like,
fast.
yeah. So I ran the whole course a couple months ago, and just on a bottle, and I ran it, like 7:45, like the 50K. So picked up water. It's super fast, super runnable, good swinging bridges, good trestles. And the only part is going up the gravel for service road to the fire tower. That's the only place you'll see. But and everybody in Bristol will be out to help, and everyone's super excited about people coming there. So
That's awesome. That's
yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah, it'll be good. It's too bad them people wrote me tickets for fucking skateboarding aren't going to be there because I'd shove it in their face. Fucking 16 tickets by the time I left. My mom would keep them on the fridge. It was like a fucking poster of them.
Yeah, she's proud of that shit.
Oh, dude, we were poor as hell. I don't even know how the hell she paid for that.
Trust me, I know. I was raised by a single mother. We didn't have a whole lot, so I feel you.
Yeah.
The stories I could tell, but I feel you. I'm blessed today, but man, I know what you're talking about. But I guess we're going to transition, into I guess you'd call it the big dog, the Canebrake
Break 200. Yeah.
200 miler. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, I so here's what happened. Me and Richard Higgins were out for a little run and around the park, and I took him on this little loop and took him on a loop, and he's like, man, I could run like 100 miles out here. Like, this loop you got set up, like, it's pretty rad, inner loop and outer loop. And I said, man, what the world needs is like an intro 200 miler, right? Like some place where people can come, feel comfortable, 96-hour cutoff, and not be overwhelmed. So we only letting 66 people in there. That way, there's enough people where you don't feel alone on the course, right? But it's not this over big thing, right? Like, it's intimate. It's your chance to go 200 miles, because I would like to try 200 miles, and I have a lot of friends who want to try 200 miles that have been running ultras for a long time, and some of them are scared to step off into it because sometimes there's 20 miles between aid stations. Sometimes it's just a 2-mile loop, or it can be like crazy ass Perry on the Duncan Ridge Trail with fucking 60,000 feet of gain, right? Like, so I was like, you know what? There's not, it's just like an intro 200 with like a sleep station and the group shelter. Like, we're going to have, our Craig and then we'll be there with the food truck serving warm food, like just a place to give you a good chance to go 200 miles. And I was just like, it's just for that. It's just for or to see how fucking fast you want to run one. I think people need intros to things, right? Before you, like, so there's probably a lot of people listening or watching this, and they really are enticed by Moab 240, Bigfoot 200. I would be Tahoe, like, dude, those are gorgeous. Like, I would want to run that. That's a little more than I want to bite off, because my mind truly can't understand 200 miles, right? And this is a place to get your mind right for 200 miles, to see if it's your cup of tea. There's some people who just take to it like nobody's business, like, whereas me, at the end of like 100K or 100 miles, I'm out. You know what I mean? Like, I'm out. But I've always been curious, because I'm like, 96 hours, that's, like, you start breaking it down in your mind, right? And I just wanted a good place for people to go. Like I said, we set up a lot of places for people to do the first 25K. So why not first 200 miler? and that's where it came about. So yeah, 66 people. Uh, you know, if you don't get in, like, I'm sorry, but like, it's one of those things that if I let 100 people in, like, then it's a big race, right?
Hmm.
We're really, so at 60 people, we're able to accommodate, give like real one-on-one attention to everyone, and that's what I want. Like I said, intro 200 miler, give your best shot, find out if you like it, if you don't like it, you know. And I think we need those things, right? Um, and and there is no easy anything. By the way, like, right, like, we can sit, look, running 100 miles anywhere is hard. Running 50 miles anywhere is hard, right? 50. So it's hard as shit. 200 miles is hard as hell, but this is a good comfort zone for you, right? Like, you come back, it's a inner 5 mile loop and an outer 10 mile loop, right? So there's somebody going to always be in these loops. You have your pacer, you can sleep, you know. um I just think we needed it in the life. It took a lot of convincing, but I was, yeah, I was like, I will do it, but I wanted to keep it small so we could have real personal connections to people doing it, and make sure they had the best chance of finishing 200 miles. And it's named Canebrake because all the damn canebrake rattlesnakes. So
So for those that are just hearing about this the first time, where is
yeah,
this being held at?
at Sweetwater Creek State Park. So it'll leave a group shelter, and you'll run the people have run the 7-Eleven the past 7 years. You'll do that loop, and then you'll go out to my old house and do the outer loop. When I used to live on the park, so some forgotten trails that are pretty rad, And if you run early snake bites, you've run it. If you ran the one 9-10 years ago, you've run a version of that loop that you'll run. Very runnable, like highly runnable, but enough single track, a little double track, like enough to keep you going, right? And not enough to bore your ass, like a 5 mile loop the whole time. So
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I think you just hit on something pretty big because, you know, let's face it, Candace has set the bar for 200-mile races. I mean, dude, she's on like a level up here with like hard ass no way in hell style races for me, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
and there's nothing. And look, in people who do that race, look, I interviewed Jeff Browning a few months ago or a couple months ago. I can't remember what it was, but I was asking him if he was going to catch Carl Meltzer's 100-mile record, and he was like, hell no, I'm not going to catch it. And he was like, he's talking about how he's going to run it. He said he's going to run a 200-mile race. And I said, I said, you're going to try to be the 200-mile champion? And he started laughing. He said, maybe so. But it just goes to show you how popular that distance has become when you have a Jeff Browning who, let's face it, that dude's like
Oh,
legendary.
yeah, yeah.
But he's throwing his hat into
Uh, that's the deal. And I will tell you, I run several of Candace's races over the last years. They're really well organized and like top notch. They're on it, right? Like, because it's hard to manage people. Think about, people are days away from each other.
It's
Right.
jacked up. That's crazy. That's crazy.
I mean, you have to think about managing the safety issues of people being days away from each other, right? Like, so she does a great job. I mean, I still say one of my favorite races I run in the US that I love is Bigfoot 43. And I would love to be able to do 200 miles out there. Maybe one day I can't, but I, dude, I mean, I think people who do, 100 miles out there, 200 miles are amazing. like I said, but if you're listening to us, do go and do the 43 because it's a great adventure run, and it goes around the Lua Trail, St. Helens, and it's just a beautiful run.
And I think you hit on something. People are days away, and it's funny because people give her shit about how expensive her races are, and I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm like, if you realize the level of the shit that she's having to put together, dude,
Yeah.
I can't even wrap my head around the organization that has to be, because you got people like, you got your Jeff Brownings that's going to be blazing the course, and then you're going to have your Jason Atnips that are going to be at the very back. That's going to, dude.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you something. You're exactly right. Like coordinating safety for all that is a big job, and that's I really think she hits home runs with them.
Oh gosh,
how about this?
yeah.
One time, I went to just volunteer, and I ran out. I forget what mile it is. Like I don't know. It's like around 120 for the runners. I come in this tent. They had like little menus they were giving runners, like, so the people, like, they had a short order cook in there, and you could order like some eggs over easy. I was like, what the it was awesome. So dude, I mean, she does a great job, and she has a big staff, and it's awesome.
It's amazing, and she does. There's nobody like her. There's nobody puts on races at the scope that she puts on at her level. Like she's it. Like when you think about big races, she's the person. Like if you're wanting to put on a 200-mile race, you look at her and you look at how it's done.
And she's a hell of a runner, right? Like so.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it one of her races that Goggins ran and like dropped out, went to the ER, and then came back and finished running it or some shit like that? I think.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that made me so mad because I feel like that's the golden rule. Because once you get medical attention, it's over for you, right? Like then it's assisted. It's not unassisted running. You know what I mean? And
he didn't get credit for it though, right? He still got the DNF.
No. And this is what I tell people, like when you have access to something that other people don't have, like, getting in warm cars or something to heat up, right? Like it's just an unfair advantage. And going to the hospital and getting a bag of fluids is unfair. If I could stop in the middle of H9 and get a bag of fluids, I'd cut 5 hours of my damn
time. That's right. That's right. I heard that. But I think going back to your race here, I think he hit a very good point here, guys. This is a great introductory way to see if this is your cup of tea, right? Because not a lot of people wants to run 200 miles, but there are some that are like, you know what, I want to do it, but I don't want to be out in the middle of the fucking desert with a damn electrical storm, and hail blowing at me, which is what happens at her races sometimes, because it's some pretty rough areas.
And man, just give you confidence to go on. Like, this is 7 trails. We've had people run a 50K, their first ever 50K. I see them this year finishing their first 100-miler. And like, that's the deal, right? Building confidence in a great supportive atmosphere. I mean, that's the fucking Yetis. Like, that's why we're created. We don't give a shit if you win and we come in last. It's just about being where people give a shit about you, right? Like, and and it's fun. We get to raise hell together, and we all kind of come together, right? Like it's a good time,
Right. And it is just like it was just like I was interviewing Amy, who won the Yeti 100. And we were talking about the Yeti culture, and I said, this is the only race you'll ever win where the person who comes in last gets more recognition than the person that comes in first. And she started laughing, and she said, but that's why I love it so much. And she goes, because it doesn't matter where you're at. That last place person,
Yeah,
deserves to get cheered on and deserves it
man,
because they have fought through more stuff than probably the person that's in first place that won it, right?
that's right. Yeah, yeah. I love Amy. She is a true gem. But yeah, I always, me and Patrick talk about, and I'm like, you finish at the he finishes right when it's dark, right? And it's just me and him there. Like there ain't no crowd. It's like, so winning a race is the loneliest place to be. So, when you're in the golden hour, it's amazing. It's an amazing experience.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Like at Western States, man, those people at the end, those are the ones that are really getting the love. So,
yeah, yeah.
but
It's so that golden hour. If people have never been to golden hour at Western States, they should go, because seeing people hit that track, I
oh,
and I was there one time when the horn got blown and someone was on the track.
that's
They
awesome.
and you know, but much respect, right? Like 30 hours is 30 hours, and even though they were a link around the track. They, much respect. And I loved it. Right. So the golden hour is at Western States is like no other place in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we've hit on all three of your races. I think
Yeah.
I think before we wrap up, you just ran H9. You got anything else big coming up on the race schedule?
No, I'm I'm the only thing big I got is I'm going out to crew Patrick at Javelina. But I haven't put anything on there yet. I'll always do Mountain Mist in January. So like that's like my favorite race of all time in the Southeast. And I usually pull in a couple things. I think at the end of this month I'm running little half marathon on a trail that I love to do. But I really sometimes will unwind a little bit, and especially after H9 and a fall and summer race. And then this year, going over and doing the Mont Blanc Trail really, you know, put me in a fatigue state. So it's good to recover, and I'm gonna walk uphill a bunch still. you know, my favorite thing to do.
Well, well, what you need to do is you need to come back out and run BFC at least, one more time.
I, so I'm gonna tell you something about that damn race. I finished it, so I didn't ever have to come back to it. Like I wanted to quit, especially when I got to the place where they ran out of water and only had individually wrapped prunes to offer me. So, but I have to tell you, it's a hard race. I mean, a lot happened to me in that race. They used to go out this road past like Rat Jaw and into a campground. And there was no soda at the aid stations back then, like lads and And so I was running out there and I saw this kid in a chair, and he had like a fucking Pepsi in this thing. And I just went over and grabbed this Pepsi from that kid and drank. Like this is what the Barkley Fall Classic made me. And then I'm going up, the Briars there to the tower, and my friend Dave Milner, it's real warm. It's a real warm time for the race. He was projectile vomiting. And at the time, I was like, had some, I don't know. I just showed up with a handheld. That's all I fucking had, right? So by the time I was going up that power line to the tower, Dave was projectile vomiting. But I saw he wore a Camelback and he had like a little hose. I just snatched this man's hose and was drinking his fucking water while he was puking. And I said, I want to finish this so I never have to come back. That's what I did. And I did the same for Strolling Jim. I will never be the fuck back at Strolling Jim.
It's funny about what I think. I think he literally screws with people in BFC because I have a friend who's been on the wait list like the entire time, right? She hadn't really been training for it. She got an email last week that said she'd been pulled off the wait list, and she's like, "What am I going to do?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, everybody's like, you got to run it, And she's like, "Well, I'm not ready for it." And we're like, well, "You got to run it." And she's like, "Fuck it, I'm running it," So I mean,
I think you got to start it, right? And I think if you live in the Southeast, you have to run Sterling Gym at least once. One of the oldest ultra marathons in the country, right? And when I ran it last, there would be a shade tree, but this man would just put the jugs of water out in the sun.
He still does that. He still does that.
He?
Yeah, he still does that. Yeah.
My favorite is like the aid station would be fucking a pack of Slim Jims and some more.
That's still the same too. That's still the same. I ran it a couple years ago, and so it was the gallon of Kroger jugs of water just sitting on the side of the road, and then at least at the aid station they have like a tent with the little Slim Jims laying on the table with like a 12-year-old kid manning it who doesn't know anything. He's on his phone,
I always tell people that is the only man that can get away with that bullshit. So if I had an aid station where it just had jugs of water on the ground and individually wrapped prunes, holy cow. I can't imagine the hell. I get so much hell about stuff not being gluten-free. I mean, I was like,
it's funny you say that, because did you watch his Real Sports interview that he did?
No.
So he did a Real Sports interview last year. It was last year. And so they asked him if I can't remember, I'm going to screw this up. I'm just going to try to paraphrase it. They asked him something about women running the Big Barkley, and if he thought that a woman could finish the Big Barkley, and he's like, "No, I don't think a woman can finish that race." And it was a woman interviewing him, and I'm like, any other motherfucker would be canceled by this, right? But then he's so damn smart. You know what he does? He says, "But I would love to see a woman finish it, though." And I'm like, there you go. You see what he just did?
This is the thing with him. He truly wants that. And I think his deal, if he probes and prods, someone will show up and just show him, right? And I think this is going to happen sooner than later. Like, I truly think it'll happen.
I tell you what we need is, I've been watching some damn European trail running videos. There's some fucking women over there, dude, that would dude, we need to bring some international women over here.
I've seen some Japanese ultra runners. They really have stepped it up a notch. And I bet when we watch UTMB next week, we'll see a lot of that country up in the top 10 throughout the.
Wasn't it a Japanese ultra runner that went Boston that year that it was hailing and freezing?
Yeah. I mean, they're great ultra runners, but I would still think Courtney Dauwalter could light up. But I think she could finish it.
I think if she wants it, she can do it. Because here's the thing with her is, if she's on, nobody can beat her. Nobody, not a single solitary. It's just like if Killian is on, dude, you're not going to beat, like what he did at Hard Rock this year. I sincerely think he was fucking with Francois the entire time, because the amount of space that he put on Francois at the end, dude, that's crazy.
Courtney Dauwalter, back-to-back wins at UTMB. She is an incredible runner, right? Like, and I think she could finish the big B, so.
Yeah, and the great thing about her is you ask her what was it, Rich Roll asked her training plan, and she's like, "I just go out and fucking run." That's like,
I feel like when I'm and if you ever meet her, that's her. Like, she's just like the most awesome, happiest person, right? Like, that just enjoys the ultra running community. So I'm a big fan of hers, you know.
Yeah, Mo Star, dude. She's
But I
amazing.
still say the GOAT's going to win UTMB. So put it down. You know, Killian's going to win.
Dude,
You know.
he's got something to prove after didn't he just get beat was it a week or two ago at what was it Zendal?
Yeah. But
He was like
I'm going to
fifth.
tell you, I felt like he was just out for a trainer, right? Like, I mean, Jim Walmsley's been over there for 4 months, but when I was over there running a trail, a local guy in the St. Gervais told me, he said, and that owned the running store there, a mountain running store, he said, for Jim Walmsley to win UTMB, he needs to live over here for a year, not 4 months. So he also had Killian winning. So,
oh yeah, dude, Killian, dude, seriously, if Killian is on and he wants it, you're not going to beat the guy. I mean, like, I'm serious. Like, I was watching that Hard Rock, and I was watching it. Me and some friends were watching it. I kept telling everybody, I'm like, he's going to win this thing, right? He's going to pull away, and he's going to win it. And literally, it was like a switch hit. I think what was in the last 6 miles, because him and Francois was together at like 94, and then like he hit a switch, and then he like just gapped.
Oh,
and dude, let's face it, Francois is like some elite.
I'm gonna tell you. One year I saw Francois ahead of Jim Walmsley, and and they were in a big climb, and Francois is the best mountain walker I've ever seen. So Jim Walmsley is like kind of in this trot uphill, and Francois looked like he was just skiing up the damn hill, like out in front of him. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, like, so Francois is amazing. So I mean, secretly I want an American to win. So I'm gonna root for Jim the whole time. So
yeah, I mean, we would like to see him win. I mean, he's had such a hard time over there, and I feel like he's so over. I feel like his legacy is so tied to Western states that he needs something. Not that Western states isn't a big deal, but he needs something on a bigger scale, right? I mean, because Killian, he just shows up and it's like wrecks courses. Like that's just what he does.
Yeah, and it's hard for as an American to race in Europe. I've run Eiger, and everything feels different. Nothing nothing ever appears the same. Like it's not what you're used to training with over here. Like the descents will break your legs off. Like Courmayeur, like why do so many people drop in Courmayeur and the UTMB? It's because the descent into town. When you sit down, I was running it and just came into town and sat down. I could barely get back up, you know. That's and I was multi-day in it, right? Like I was just like, oh my God, no wonder, right? Like, 5-6 miles of this, just huge. That's crazy. And then when you leave those towns, you got to climb back out of the valley, right? So,
dude, it's amazing.
Well, awesome, brother. I will see you soon. Okay.
That sounds awesome. This is it. Thank you, Jason, for doing it.
Thank you, my man.
And as always, this will be on audio, and it'll be on audio, and it'll be on video, and that's it. And we'll see you on the trail.